You're tuned to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. This is
The Wonderful World of Wardini Books.
my pleasure, as always, to have here in the studio the wonderful Lou from Wardini Books in Havelock North. You been well?
Yeah, very well. Yourself?
Oh, yeah, I can't complain. All the better for seeing you, you know that. I always think that when you wake up in the morning, wow, what a bonus.
What? Just by waking up in the morning?
I'm
Yes.
still here, that's right.
I'm normally just confused. Yeah.
5 cups of coffee later, look at you
Hey!
now. Buzzing along. Anyway, 3 more fabulous books to talk about today, and the first one is called 8 Gifts for Tiffany. What's that all about?
The 8 Gifts of Tiffany. So it's by Steph Mataku and it's illustrated by Leah Mutton-Rogers. And it's a New Zealand one. And there are 2 little kids playing down on the beach, Tamati and his little sister Arya. And I just put my glasses on because I'd read the story really briefly like that the other day and been so blown away by the ending that I actually made a noise at the end of it. You know, just like, ah!
What a great drawing.
Aren't they? So I've just put my specs on to have a look at all the detail under the ocean.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, so there's all sorts of going on. So they're pootling around and they're sliding down the sand dunes and the little seagull's got his water wings on.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's one of those books that you bought them, many of them before, where you can actually look around the page and there's, you'd be 5 minutes on that one page.
Absolutely. And little kids would as well, I think. Arya's tripped over and she's grazed her leg and she's not a very happy bunny.
Yes.
You know, parents and
Yeah.
will recognise that face.
Dead right there.
So she's kind of like attracted the attention of this person, this creature. And there's this strange bubbly voice. Isn't that lovely?
It is.
Yeah. What's that horrible noise? Said a strange bubbly voice. And I'm going to have to work on.
Yeah. Go on, do your bubbly voice.
Yeah. I'm going to have to work on my strange bubbly voice. Sounded like Sean Connery.
Yes, you did.
It's Tiffany, the octopus. That's who it is.
Yes,
He's saying, what's up with that kid?
Yeah.
And he's like, give it to me, I'll fix her. And Tamati's like, oh, I don't think so, you know. And in return, I'll give you 2 gifts, says Tiffany, one for each of your arms. Here is the gift for your left arm, so he gets a gold coin. Tamati's got that. And then a pearl for the right arm. And they're like, okay. But he's still not quite happy about it, Tamati. Tiffany just steals Arya, just grabs her. Well, you've got my gifts now, so you owe me that child, you know. It's almost like one of these terrible old fairy stories where the wicked one takes the firstborn. So she's gone. She's gone down into the water and Tamati's like, no, and he chases. And she's okay down there, but Tiffany has taken Arya into his lair. So he runs home, and I love the cross-section of the home.
Yes.
And Mum there, and of course Mum's not very happy about this, that you didn't look after your little sister, you know, that whole thing going on. And he wants 8 gifts, Tiffany wants 8 gifts. So they take them, that's his lair, he's just like got all sorts of stuff in it. And again, put my glasses on, have a good rummage around in Tiffany's lair and see what I would like to take out of there. Cutting a longer story short, he gets all sorts of wonderful gifts. They give Tiffany all sorts of really nice things. And the last gift, Tamati says, you've got to come up here and I need to see Arya and you need to give Arya to me and then I'll give you the 8th gift. It's called a snare! And they grab Tiffany and then pull and Mum's in on this as well. So Mum's been part of trapping Tiffany. And there's an epic battle with the octopus in which Tamati's got his little patu back or whatever it is and he's just going to like bash him. But shall I do a spoiler?
Yeah, go on.
Because it's so good.
It's got to have a happy ending.
Mum's like, oh, you kids all right? And they're like, yep, cool. And Tiffany is snared like that. Nasty old octopus. Tamati smiled. Tiffany has given us the best gift of all. And they eat him.
Oh, yeah, squid rings.
Did you see it coming?
I thought it might, but I thought they were going to say, oh, look, now, we're going to let you go and everything's nice. We're going to be great mates forever.
Yeah, no, they just scoff him.
What a good ending.
He's Kaimoana. And that's it. I just thought that was great.
That is a great ending. I love it.
I quite like when a kid's book gives you a bit of a kick like that, you know, because normally everything's happy ever after.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was expecting.
Kids.
Happy ever after. No, there's a bit of a kicker on that one, that's for sure. Do you like squid rings?
No, I don't.
Don't you?
Eat.
I don't mind.
I think they're so intelligent, squid and octopus, that I won't eat them.
Yeah, you wouldn't eat them, no. Well, they didn't think that, did they?
Well, he was a nasty one.
He was.
Yeah, he deserved it.
He's a crusty old guy.
Oh, dear.
Leonard and Hungry Paul. Speaking of squid rings.
Isn't that a great title?
It is.
By Roland Hessian, an Irish writer, in case you hadn't guessed from the name. And it is one of those books that it's quite hard to find. If when someone comes in and says, "Oh God, I just want a nice book in which nothing terrible happens," this is that book.
Oh, do they have those? Yeah,
They exist,
it's a real book,
and this is it. So it's in a town. I don't know if it ever specifies what town it's in. And Leonard's mum's just died. He's mid-30s and he's lived with his mum, you know, forever. It's just been him and his mum, and they've actually been really good friends, you know, and they've rubbed along well. And although it sounds strange that a grown man is still living with his mother,
yes.
It's, you know, it just, well, you know, we've always just got on well, and it's been fine. And then he's grieving because his kind of his good mate that he sits on the sofa with in the evening and watches TV, she's gone. His best friend is Hungry Paul, who's a similar age, mid-30s. Hungry Paul lives with his parents, his mum and dad. And so Leonard's visiting more because he's quite lonely and stuff, and he's around there most nights, and they play board games and they do sort of nice gentle things and they have philosophical conversations. Leonard is a children's book writer, so he sits and does these, what he thinks of as quite, the market wants these quite boring children's books, and he's got this plan for an amazing kids book in his head about Romans and things. And Hungry Paul keeps his Mondays free in case the post office want him as a relief postal worker, and that's pretty much all he does.
Is that his nickname, Hungry Paul?
Hungry Paul.
Yeah.
He's only ever referred to as Hungry Paul in this book. And really, it is then a novel of the things that happen to Leonard and Hungry Paul. So there is a love interest at some point for one of them. There's a lot of thinking and a lot of sitting and a lot of philosophising over board games. And Hungry Paul's sister Grace is getting married. And so there are lengthy phone conversations about the wedding. She's a hyper-organiser. And probably quite a pivotal thing is that she thinks Paul is just like languishing, Hungry Paul, and he needs to be independent and do something and succeed at something. So the whole conversation is, well, what's a successful person?
Exactly.
You know, it's quiet and it's gentle and it's kind and it's really, really funny.
Do those books that just meander? I mean, I just love an easy book where you think, oh, well, that was pretty good, and no one got killed, and no one ran off with someone. Do those books sell, or do people like the old tragedy here and the killing there and the bad news there?
Yeah. I think people do like the drama, don't they? And,
yes, they do.
There's one that I'll review next week for you. That the first quarter of it is the most depressing thing that I've read in a very long time.
Well, that must be depressing then.
I'll tell you about that. But yes, exactly. But yeah, I think there is a market for this.
Yeah.
And it's not, there was that beautiful book called Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, and she wasn't completely fine, but that was a gentle, lovely book. But there were some dark moments for Eleanor in that. And in this one, really, this is just normal life stuff, but opportunities do come in the way of quiet, gentle people. And it's a celebration of quiet, gentle people.
Who's going to read that book?
Oh, lots of people, I think because of the humour. Someone that wants a funny book as well,
Yes.
because I actually ended up reading some bits out to Gareth and some friends that we had round as well. So listen to this, you know. It's just, there's an element of ordinary, everyday life comedy, you know, when something happens and it's just really funny.
And that's all of us. We could all relate to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, that's Leonard and Hungry Paul. Put that on your list.
Yeah.
And the last book we're going to talk about today is The Sentence.
This is also a fabulous book. It's quite epic in its reach of historical events and, well, recent historical events. So it's by Louise Erdrich. She's won the Pulitzer Prize quite recently with The Night Watchman, but this is her brand new one, The Sentence. And it starts off, we're in America, we're in Minnesota. Our main character, Tookie, is a Native American woman, and she commits a crime kind of passion. She's trying to appease a person that she's got a big crush on, and she steals a body.
Oh, yes, as you do.
Yeah, as you do. And it kind of all turns to custard. So not only has she stolen this body, but there was something else going on with this body that means that she gets sentenced for grand larceny and sentenced to 60 years in prison.
Wow.
So it's all turned to custard very quickly for this poor woman, Tookie. And then you kind of... So the sentence is her sentence to begin with, and then it becomes to do with books, because she is, after 10 years, released because more evidence has come to light and rah-de-rah-de-rah. It wasn't as bad as everybody thought. And while she's been in prison, she has got this encyclopedic knowledge of books. She's read and she's done things at the library, and she's a very literary person. And her old teacher gets her a job at a bookstore, which is really cool because Louise Erdrich, the author, owns a bookstore in Minnesota called Birch Bark Books. And she is a minor character in her own novel, this novel. So Tookie goes and works at Louise's bookshop. And she also meets the tribal cop that arrested her. She re-meets him, and they get married.
You wouldn't read about that, would you?
You wouldn't read about that. So that's all going on. And then another pivotal thing in here, I'll just give you the pivotal bits. The bookshop's most irritating customer dies. She comes back to haunt the bookshop, so she's its most irritating ghost. That's quite a complicated thing going on. And it also spans COVID and lockdowns and the terror, because we've not had that terror here of everybody getting it and, thousands upon thousands of people dying. And that's touched upon in here. And also the George Floyd murder by the police officer.
Wow, it's full.
So there's all sorts going on in there. And it's Tookie's journey through all of this and her trauma and her... Because she's quite the sort of... You just imagine her as this small, very tough woman, that's been through all these things. Yeah. And there's a lot of life and a lot of characters and friendships and relationships within her step family, the family that she's taken on. And it was just beautiful. Yeah.
Will we be uplifted when we get to the end?
Yeah, it's a very uplifting book because she's great. She's got to work through a lot of things, but she's not seeing them as deep, dark trauma. She's just getting up every day and sorting it out.
Just living life.
Yeah.
What do you give it out of 10?
10 out of 10. I want to go back and read all her other books.
Oh, good on you. All right, Lou, if we need any of those fabulous books, where do we get them?
Wardini Books. Thank you.
See you next week.
Ta-ra.